In this video, I'll be building Tamiya's excellent 1/35th scale Kettenkraftrad. Make sure to stick around till the end of the video because I'll be doing a full post-build review.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another Small Soldier video. And my first build for 2022. It sounds so weird to say that, 2022. It seems so futuristic.
I'll be back.
Well, maybe not that futuristic, but it does sound weird to say. I'll be presenting this build as a series of videos. This one being the build, the next one will be the weathering and painting, the third will be figure painting, and the last one will be creating the vignette. So sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and let's get going. Well, first things first, let's take a look at what you get in the box and a few details of some of the sprues. Tamiya makes it easy to build their models with concise and easy to follow instruction booklets. There's no guessing games with Tamiya. As you can see, there aren't a lot of parts in this kit, so it should build rather quickly. As you can see, the parts are cleanly molded with only minimal mold seams. My example came undamaged, and I think that's because they bag all their sprue trees separately, so hint hint to other model companies. And here's what the figures look like when they're built up. I really think Tamiya is leading the way in plastic injection molded figures, although I did think the heads lacked a little definition, so I changed those out with some resin examples. Of course, everything starts with cutting the parts off the sprue trees. Next, don't forget to scrape away any mold seams or parting lines. Then a final sand to get things smooth. The engineering and fit of the parts was second to none. I really didn't have any issues putting this together. So if you're looking for a model to boost that mojo, I would strongly recommend this kit to get you back in the groove. I thought I would try the Tamiya epoxy putty for making the weld beads, but unfortunately I think maybe because they were so small it just didn't work out. So I went back to my tried and true method of stretch sprue, and you'll see that a little later in the video. When you're installing these grill plates on the engine cover, just make sure that you bend them the proper way. I bent one inside out, so unfortunately I had to remove it and rebend it. So that's something you might want to watch out for. If you're unfamiliar with what stretch sprue is, well, it's pretty simple. Just heat it and stretch. It can be used for a multitude of things, including filling gaps and what I'll be using it for here, to make weld beads. As you can see, it's fairly easy to do. You just have to practice a little bit and you'll be able to create some nice in-scale weld beads. Things that can enhance the detail of your model kits can be as simple as drilling out the end of this exhaust pipe. No engineering degree needed here. Like I said earlier, there are parting lines on most pieces, so you will have to take the time to clean those up, and if you leave small parts on the sprue tree like I did here, it'll make your life a lot easier holding these pieces when cleaning them up. This may give you a better idea of how I'm creating those weld bead textures. I'm just using a toothpick in this example to create a certain pattern on the bottom of this plate. I'm not sure if you're like me, but I often like to clean my desktop as I'm working, and as a result I sucked up this part with the vacuum, never to be seen again. So as a result I had to make a mold and cast a new one. This kit offers a really nice looking engine, but since I wasn't really going to be displaying it, I didn't spend a lot of time cleaning up the parts. Tamiya was very thoughtful in the way they designed the running gear on this kit. It was a pleasure to build, other than, you guessed it, mold seams, and there's plenty of them here. There's really nothing you can do about it other than get in there and just start cleaning. I've had some people tell me they find this part very therapeutic and they enjoy it. I don't mind it. It's not the best thing in the world, but you know, again, it's just something you have to do, and it's part of the whole process. Although this segment is mainly about the building process, there are some things that just have to be painted before you can proceed any further, and painting the running gear is one of them. When dealing with interlaced wheels on running gear that have rubber on them, it's always easiest to paint them before you assemble them. Yeah, ask me how I know. Tamiya Extra Thin, or TET, will always be your friend when cleaning up all those little bits of sanding debris. I thought I would try out Tamiya's new dark yellow for late war vehicles, and in my opinion it looks pretty good. You'll need patience and a good brush to perform this next task. It kind of takes me back to when I was a kid coloring in a coloring book and having to stay inside the lines. And if you happen to go a little bit onto the yellow, it can always be touched up later. Like I said earlier, the design of the running gear is really nice. I really like how the road wheels are connected. By doing this, Tamiya has given us a foolproof method for getting exact alignment on the wheels, especially with these multi-layered wheel type. The tracks provided in the kit are a link and length type. There are some that like this type and some that don't. I personally don't really care either way. As long as the fit's good, I'm happy. The only thing I don't like about these are the pin ejection marks. There were 6 to 8 on each long track length and 2 on every single length. So be prepared to spend a little time here. For me, this was the most tedious and longest part of the build. And there was quite a bit of cleanup on the rubber shoe parts as well. I find the easiest way to assemble these is to just lay them on your tabletop, glue the individual pieces and lay them in, and then you want to let those sit to the side and dry for about 20-25 minutes before you start assembling them around the running gear. Make sure you leave one end open, don't glue that, because that'll make it easy to pop those tracks off for painting later. Because the sprocket side has teeth, that's the side I would leave unglued. It'll make it easier to get those off again when you go to paint. The track pads are designed for easy alignment. I thought this was a clever little feature. Once dry, I just clipped off the carrier and sanded the excess away. You need to be a little more careful with the individual ones because you need to make minor adjustments just to make sure that they're straight and flat. As you can see, the fender comes in two sections, so you'll need to take care again here. By applying pressure to the two parts, you can get plastic to squeeze out of the joint. And in some cases, that may be all you need to fill that gap. The tarp had some great detail other than the sides. They lacked a little definition. Actually, they were essentially just blobs. So with my trusty number 11 blade, I rescribed that detail. The melted sprue wasn't enough to cover that joint, so it was Mr. Surfacer 500 to the rescue. The trailer was a pleasure to build. Everything is keyed and fits together perfectly, so you shouldn't have any issues here either. I removed all the plastic tie downs on the trailer in preparation for the photo etch. I found some spare tie downs in another kit and I thought they might work out pretty good for replacements here. These are small and they were quite a challenge, but you know, after building that ship model, these seem fairly doable. Hey, speaking of ship models, if you want to check out my 1/200 scale HMS hood build, I'll leave a link in the upper right hand corner, which you can go check out after this video. Making weld beads out of sprue is really quite simple. It just takes a little practice. But after you do a couple of them, you'll get the hang of it, and it should come fairly easy after that.
Alright, I thought I'd end the video with a post-build review. The things that I thought were good and bad about the kit. The good is it's typical Tamiya engineering, everything fits great, and no issues with placement. If there are tabs that keep left and right parts together or certain areas like that, they're keyed and they're different, so you really can't make a mistake when you're adding them. Just follow the instructions and you should have no issues building this kit. Overall, the details were really good and accurate. There were some things missing that I thought was strange because, for instance, down here in the wheels, they did add the weld beads where they need to be on those wheels. But at the front of the vehicle, they didn't add weld beads in here and there, and down here, I had to add all those in. That's something you might want to take a look at if you are building the kit, if you want to go to the extent of that kind of detail. Another thing I added was the wiring for the running lights, wiring for the headlamp, and the wiring for the throttle. I also added this switch here, which is to turn on that light. But like I said, some things that were missing, like the weld beads in here when they added them there, and kind of replicated some in some other areas. I don't understand why they wouldn't have done that. Another thing is these grills on the engine cover. Just make sure that the detail is pointing on the outside when you bend them to fit, because I wasn't paying attention and the detail I had on the inside and had to switch it and fix it. So just make sure you're aware and you're paying attention there that you don't do that. On the tarp here, I added in the detail on the sides because that was missing. It was just kind of blobular and not very well defined at all. So I scribed that detail in, but the fit overall of the tarp and the details on it were done very well. And there were some weld beads, like I said, missing back here. I added in as well, and a few weld beads just on the front of the trailer that were missing. I also added in these tie downs, which were missing on the actual kit here. They did try to replicate the tie downs on the trailer, but I thought they were kind of weak, and I removed those and added the photo etch ones like you see here. Overall, the fit of the trailer was very good. I didn't have to do any extra detailing to the trailer at all, other than some cleanup and, like I said, weld beads down on this part here. The wheels are pre-painted so that when I go to paint the vehicle, it's just easier to do. I can pull the tracks off because they're not attached. It just makes my life easier when I go to paint those items. Here you'll have to watch, there's a seam coming down on the front of the fender because it's two parts, so you have to clean that up and smooth that out and make sure that looks like one piece of fender as well. But overall, that's pretty much it as far as the build goes. Those are the details I added. Again, you don't need to add those details. You can build it as is. It is a very good kit, and you could, build this in a few evenings and have a very nice model.
Hey, if you like what I'm doing here, please consider subscribing. Click the bell icon and you'll be notified whenever I upload new content. And you'd really be helping me out by hitting that like button. This notifies YouTube and lets them know that you like this video, and they'll suggest it to others just like you. Okay, that's it for now. I'll see you in the next one.